Good morning, dear attendees. Welcome to this session where we will talk in detail about the 2023 report on quality and use of data prepared by our team of experts that I will be presenting shortly. I am Cristina Bonillo. I'm part of the ESMA communications team. And before we start, I just wanted to go through some small logistic aspects. The first thing is to let you know that this webinar is being recorded, so it will be later published in our website and made available for everyone. Then you need to consider that this is a Teams live session, so you will not be able to turn up your cameras and microphones, but you will have a Q&A section on the right side of your screen where you can place all your questions. Please put your questions in the tool during the whole presentation. You don't need to wait until the end. We will be taking them all, and we will respond at the end of this session once the presentation has been finished. And finally, please be aware that there may be some delays when we change the speaker or the slides of the presentation due to the tool that we're using, but there shouldn't be any technical problems, we hope. Many thanks for your interest and for joining us today. And now I will leave it to the experts. So I would like to welcome Nikolai Arnaudov, our Head of Data Intelligence and Analytics at ESMA. Nikolai, the floor is yours.
Hello and good morning also from my side. Thanks a lot, of course, for joining us today. This is the fourth time that we meet to discuss the report on quality and use of data, and I'm extremely happy to see more and more people joining us with each and every edition of the report. As Cristina mentioned, we are experimenting also with a new system, which we hope is going to be much more also interactive, and it will provide much better quality of the presentation towards you. So on this one also, please bear with us, because as usual there are some teething problems when we put a new system in place. What we plan to discuss today and to share with you today. The main objective, of course, of this session is to go over the fourth edition of the report on quality and use of data. You have seen that in this edition of the report, we have added a few new data sets, which we believe are of great interest for the public, for the market participants. But not only that they are of interest, this is part of our data strategy. ESMA is extremely committed to provide back to the market part of the information that they are sending us through analytics, through reports, through visualizations, and of course, as part of informing our policy decisions. The report that you see, it's also an effect of and the outcome of an important teamwork. And teamwork not only at ESMA, where, as Cristina mentioned, I lead the team who has been preparing this report, but also teamwork with national competent authorities, with central banks, with ECB, ESRB, other regulators in the European Union. With the joint effort of all of us, we do have and we have indeed been making our efforts to increase the quality of the data and to make it more and more usable for us, and of course to bring better value for the European society in general. What in practice you're going to see today, Chloe is going to guide you through the specific sections of the report, with of course the main purpose for you to be able to connect the dots, to be able to understand why and how each and every action that we have been undertaking in the context of the transaction or regulatory data that is provided to ESMA contributes to an improved quality, to better policy decisions, to more stable markets, to better functioning markets. So from that perspective, indeed, we hope that this is going to be extremely useful for you. In addition to that, what you have seen also in the report, there are several sections in the annex which we also know that are extremely relevant for you, and those we hope also would better inform the way in which entities cooperate with their national supervisors, but also how they reply and respond to the needs of the regulators. So without any further ado from our side, I give the floor to my colleague Chloe, who is going to guide you, Chloe Picande, who is going to guide you through the report, and then the both of us at the end of her presentation will be replying to your questions. Thank you very much, and Chloe, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome also on my side. My name is Chloe Picande, and I have the pleasure to guide you through the report on the 2023 report on the quality and use of data that has been published on the ESMA website on the 10th of April. Before we get into the detail of the report, just the fact sheet for 2023 to recall what we're talking about, which data set we are covering. So as you can see, so this is the 4th edition of the report. The first one, we're focusing on EMIR and SFTR. Subsequently, last year, we have already enriched the report to cover also one part of MiFIR transaction reporting. This year, we are also covering another aspect of MiFIR, which is the part on transparency, and this is about both the data submitted to ESMA for the transparency calculations and also those that are published by APAs. So 2 data sets in MiFIR, then also a new data set for this year. We are covering securitization, and we're also covering funds. And within funds, we have both money market funds as well as alternative investment funds. So in this slide, you can see some basic figures just to get a sense, to get a feeling of the size of the data set that we're covering. They're very diverse in terms of the financial instruments that they cover, the type of transactions, the policy intention also of all those reporting regimes are different, and we are covering all those data sets in the same report, which, as mentioned, was published a few weeks ago. And here I was presenting the table of content. So the 2 chunky parts of this report are really the objective of the report are to show, one, how the data is used. So on this, we have a section dedicated to the use by national competent authorities, the ECB and the ESRB. And we have also a section on our internal use within ESMA. So this is the one chunky part on data use, and then we have the other big section on data quality. Now, on top of this, as was mentioned by Nikolai, we have tried to put the data quality and use in the context of the ESMA data strategy. This is the first part of the report that is also a novelty for this year. And also very important in the annex, I will explain this towards the end of my presentation. We are trying to provide more transparency to our stakeholders and to explain, to be transparent about how we do those data quality tests and the methodology that we are employing. So now moving on to how we have tried to explain really how data quality and use fit in the context of the ESMA data strategy, which explains how ESMA assets is serving its strategic and thematic objective. The ESMA data strategy was updated last year. It was published in June 2023. And there are 6 objectives in this data strategy. And 4 of them are linked to the content of this report. So first of all, the objective A, which is about having an enhanced data hub. And this is about how we share data with our national competence authorities by onboarding them to the ESMA data platform, which originally was mainly used internally by ESMA. Now we're trying to give that access to NCA so they can leverage on the work that we're doing on the platform. Objective B is focusing more on the public, so giving access to data of public interest. This is something we have been doing for a long time by publishing statistics or analysis. Now we are also leaning towards more interactive dashboards that will be available. And also to mention that in the future, the European Single Access Point will increase significantly the scope of data that can be made centrally available at ESMA. Another objective, very important, data-driven supervision. This is about making available to the supervisors the data, the information, the tools that they need to enable data-driven supervision. And one use case is the development of a proof of concept for the detection of market abuse using AI techniques. And finally, last objective of relevance in this context is the systematic use of data. With the migration of all the data sets and the analysis in the ESMA data platform, this allows all the users to work together collectively, efficiently, and in a much quicker way. And very importantly, also to combine the different data set in a way that was not possible before. And all of this is enabled by the new ESMA data platform. Now, moving on to the use of data by regulators. We have spoken to the national competent authorities, ECB and ESRB, to help us also put some content in this section to collect the way in which they use the data in their day-to-day operation, but also for specific analysis, analytical work. And the use cases are very diverse, depending on also on the mandates of the different regulators. But we have tried to cluster them, to group them into some categories, starting with at the most macro level, the monitoring of trends and risks in financial market. This is about analyzing how specific events unfolding have an impact on financial markets. In 2023, there has been analysis following the Russian invasion of Ukraine. There has been analysis also on the Credit Suisse takeover or on CDS market stress, to name a few examples. Sometimes it's events that took place before 2023, but were analyzed in 2023 once the dust had settled. Also a lot of focus in 2023 on energy markets. In the wake of the energy crisis, which unfolded more in 2022. At ESMA, for example, we have published a very data-rich report on the market correction mechanism and its impact on commodity derivatives market. We have also made, for example, an analysis of the August 2022 spike on gas derivatives. Those are an example of analyses that are made at the most macro level. Now, because the data is very granular, it also allows to analyze specific market events, specific infrastructure, type of investor, type of infrastructure. And so, for example, there has been some work on a new broker, high-frequency trader, trading venues activity, or funds with substantial leverage. Another use case, of course, is the detection and the monitoring of market abuse. This is something that has been going on for a long time on the basis of transaction reporting, something that we are quite familiar with. Another use case is the monitoring of the legal obligation. This can be to monitor, of course, the reporting requirements, but it can also go beyond that and to monitor some specific requirement in regulations. This can be in EMIR, for example, the clearing obligation or the derivatives trading obligation, or funds compliance with certain requirements. One also important use case I would like to mention is related to policy, data-driven policy. This is also, again, something we have tried to do. We have been doing for a long time. It's becoming easier and easier to do this. And as example, in 2023, we have provided advice to the European Commission on the OTC identifier in the context of the establishment of the consolidated tape using EMIR data. So those are just a few examples that I'm citing there. You will find many more in the report, and also to mention that at the end of the report, there is an annex where we have tried to list all the different analyses that we are aware of. Of course, for the ESMA one, that was easy, but we also collected input from external users. And so you can see there the use cases are very different. Now, the use of financial data is in a way the tip of the iceberg. This is really sort of the last piece of the puzzle in the data lifecycle. This is probably the most visible one. But before arriving there, there's a considerable amount of work that is being done to make sure that this data, which is going to end up in a policy proposal, in an investigation case, or in a study, is of sufficiently good quality to serve its purpose, given the important decisions that are going to be made on the basis of this data. And so the question is, how do we get there? This is a very important question that we are trying to answer in this report. You will, in the section dedicated to data quality, we are treating this data set per data set. However, before jumping into this, just 3 points which are relevant for all data sets and important for data quality. The first is the link between the use and the quality. The more a data set is used and the better it gets. In a way, it's as simple as that. I think anyone working with data will have experienced this. Every time you do a new analysis, you investigate a new field because you want to make a breakdown, you will find some issues, and it's only because you started looking there that you find the issue and also that you can fix it. So mechanically, more data is used, the better it gets. Second point, important also across the board, is the cooperation. There are many actors which are involved in the chain of reporting, in the treatment of this data, people with different competencies, which need to work together to speak a common language and to look in the same direction to achieve this result. We are trying to have frequent iteration with all those stakeholders, national competent authorities, but also anyone reporting data to ESMA, and of course the entities that ESMA is supervising to achieve this common objective. And the last point on the methodology, you will see many references in the document to the data quality engagement framework, which is the common methodology that we use across the board to achieve data quality risk and to adopt a risk-based approach. So the data quality engagement framework are different for each data set. There is one for each data set, as they're of course due to the different nature of the data. However, they share a common ground and a common pillars, and those pillars are, maybe I can probably move on to the next slide. The first pillar of the data quality engagement framework is data quality indicators. So this is about defining data quality indicators which matter. So those that are the most important, the most impactful, and to make sure that we are not flooding and that we are not detecting too much. So we try to focus on what matters really. The second step is to share those data quality indicators with the relevant parties, in this case, National Competent Authority. And the third point, very important, is the follow-up until the resolution of the issue. So all this work, it's very complex, it's very long, it takes a lot of effort. It's easier to spot an issue than to correct it, but we are proud to show how we are doing this, and the cases where it is working, and the cases where it is less working also, because we are transparent in the way we are presenting the data quality indicators. So now, with this framework, I will give some examples. So there are many examples of data quality indicators in the report. I will not present them all. I have selected a few And I will quickly go through them dataset per dataset. Starting with EMIR, I have selected three charts. DQI 1 and 2 are about differences in trades and positions which are reported by two counterparties which trade with each other. EMIR being a dual-sided reporting regime. You see reporting from both counterparties so you can compare them. And DQI 10, which is an example of a field that is of a particular importance, as the valuation of a derivative would be used in many occasions when working on the EMIR data. And all those DQI are showing good trends towards increased data quality. To be mentioned, and this will be seen also in other DQI, that sometimes the steep of the curve is stronger at the beginning than at the end, meaning that it's easy to achieve an increase in the data quality when we start putting in place the checks and the data quality. And then it becomes a bit more difficult, even though we still lean towards data quality, it's done at a slower pace. Those are so few examples on EMIR. Moving on to MiFIR and linking to ESMA's mandate of the supervisions of ARMS and APAs. So ARMS are receiving the transaction data for the purpose of the enforcement of market abuse mainly. And APA are collecting and publishing transaction data for the purpose of MiFIR transparency. On those two types of entities that ESMA is supervising, so the big APAs and ARMS are supervised by ESMA, we are receiving periodic information from those two types of entities to monitor data quality. So, for example, ingestion volumes or rejection rates. Rejection rates are a good proxy of data quality. It shows whether the checks are fulfilled. And you can see that for both types of entities, the rejection rates are quite low. And there's also a nice illustration of one APA, which has successfully solved one data quality issue, as can be evidenced in the chart number 19. Also to mention that we are seeing a significant improvement in the average time that executing entities take to submit their data to APA in 2023 compared to 2022. So this was one of the MiFIR dataset. Now moving to still on MiFIR, now towards the transparency data, I would like to mention a few developments that took place in 2023 and impacting data quality. One is more at the policy level. We have published for the first time in 2023 a manual on post-trade transparency, which is a level 3 tool, flexible, with examples on how we expect the transparency data to be reported to ESMA and also to be published, again, with the objective of having better data quality. Transparency publication is done on an ongoing basis. So this is the periodic publication of aggregated figures that then support the application of the MiFIR transparency regime. The MiFIR data quality engagement framework also has been updated in 2023, and there are quarterly checks which are shared with NCAs and the DRSPs, leaning again towards having a more risk-based approach and addressing the most impactful issues. In terms of more specific data quality updates, we're seeing that the completeness is overall stable and of good quality, with a better accuracy on equity instruments compared to non-equity instruments, something we're flagging in the report. And we have a couple of issues under resolution, such as the classification of bonds, also the reporting of fractional shares, which is in a way a bit challenging. And also we have detected some OTF reporting practices that needs to be amended. The novelty in the 2023 report, we are also covering securitization. So with this data set, we are monitoring on a daily basis the register of simple, transparent, and standardized securitization. We're also having a particular focus on the monitoring, monitoring the over-reliance on the no data option, which has also led to the publication of a consultation on possible changes to the securitization disclosure template. The last data set that we are covering in the report is related to funds, as I was mentioning, both alternative investment funds and money market funds. You can see in this slide a very a representation of the 4 dimensions of data quality that we are measuring on an ongoing basis: timeliness, completeness, consistency, accuracy. And you can see in one chart how this is evolving along the 4 variables since we have started to implement the data quality framework. So it started earlier for AFMD than an MMFR. Globally, there has been a good improvement of data quality on the funds, although we are flagging in the report that for 2023 AFMD, the data quality has not improved significantly, and this is something, this is a point of focus that we are flagging in the report. In terms of actions undertaken to address this, we are working on new validation rule and also guidance on reports and fields. And in the future also to lean towards more risk-based approach and increase the frequency of the data quality cycles. So yeah, again, as I mentioned, you will find many more. Here I focused a bit on the DQI, but in the report there are also more analytical issues or projects with using data quality. That's I of course invite you also to take a look. Now also just a word on this new annex, which is important for us. And there are two aspects in that. The idea again was to be more transparent with our stakeholders about how we perform all the work we do on data quality. And one is on the methodology. So we are publishing the methodology, the DQI, how we calculate those metrics. And we have done so for the different data set that we are presenting in the report. So those indicators that are calculated for each jurisdiction and then shared with the national competent authority. Another part on transparency is to publish some codes to download APA data. This came in the context of a project where we sought to compare this consistency between MiFIR transaction and MiFIR transparency. And while doing so, we connected to each APAs to download their publication, their transparency data, and then we aggregated it and compared it with transparency. And while doing so, we developed some codes that we are making now available to the public so that any investor or interested party wishing to automatically download APA data can do so with the codes that we are providing. So those are the 2 examples that we have this year in terms of increased transparency on ESMA's methodology and work towards data quality. And with this, I will give the floor back to Nikolai, who will say a few words about the next steps and what we're working on already this year in 2024. Thank you for your attention.
Hello, back from me. So I would be in charge of closing the session with some words on the next steps that we have on data quality. Plus, of course, I would give you also some hints on what else we're going to be doing on the data use. Of course, as you have seen in the report, we don't focus only on what we do, but also in what is being done in the regulatory community with the data that we have that it's been made available to us authorities and how we inform our decisions. So in terms of data quality frameworks, it was part also of our data strategy. Main objectives there are indeed to increase where relevant the frequency of our data quality assessments. This, as Chloe mentioned, would be particularly the case for funds. We would be using, and the plan is we have already started using the ESMA data platform to share more information with the national competent authorities so that they can more easily interact with their supervised entities. So this is already been put in place, and the plan is to extend it to more reporting regimes. So for the time being, it's EMIR and SFTR. Risk-based approach on the data quality, it's being gradually implemented. Again, this was one of the also of the working objectives of the data strategy. Now, as you know, today is the 26th of April. Next Monday, for many of you, most probably it's going to be an important day, both whether either because you're a reporting entity and you need to make sure that your reports, your derivative reports, go through the trade repository, or if your trade repository, to be sure that indeed your system is up and running, well functioning, and able to receive all those millions of records that on each and every day you receive from market participants. So from that side, also on ESMA side, and of course with the regulatory community, we have been also updating our approaches, our data quality engagements. The DQIs that we have published this year, they would evolve, or we would have, let's say, more granular set of data quality indicators also on the EMIR to be sure that we are able to monitor this. I would say the most used data set, at least in Europe. Then, in terms of the work that we perform in the context of the MiFID review, which is another important and big transaction level framework, probably the most important one in terms of monitoring of market abuse and preventing market abuse, insider trading, etc. So there is also quite an important work that the teams are undertaking to keep high the quality of the data that we have now through the different also work streams and steps that you have seen in the report, but also to make sure that the new version of MiFID and MiFID and the technical standards that underpin them are indeed well thought through, with a lot of let's say data-driven policy measures. ESMA has been and will continue be very data-driven regulator, very data-driven supervisor. So from that perspective, indeed, the data is embedded also in the policy making when we set up either thresholds for a transparency regime, or whether we decide certain data elements to be included for a greater transparency, for higher level of scrutiny, etc. Of course, what also would come in and would continue happening in 2024 is to have further engagement, let's say closer engagement with many of the entities, so that they are able also to implement as relevant any remedial actions if they are needed. The competent authorities are able easily to interact with entities, and last but not least, achieve those important improvements in the quality of the data. As Chloe told you, you have seen that we are seeing a lot of good development on some of the indicators, but still, as we have also mentioned, the data quality requires further work. It's not at the level that we want it to be. We do want to make sure that indeed we don't have we have a single digit data quality indicators showing that indeed the data is very close to this ideal state. Then, in terms of the also, of course, of our use of data, there are many other documents. That's why we have not we didn't want to repeat those here. But you can see also about the way in which ESMA uses data. We have published several our, of course, work program, but also there are some other, of course, more thematic reports which are being published by our colleagues, where indeed data is heavily used. So with that one, I indeed would thank you again for all your attention, for all your interest in joining us today. And we would now move to the Q&A session. The Q&A session is, as Christina mentioned, is organized in this virtual way, where your questions are being published, and then we reply to them. Depending on, of course, the let's say the person who is responsible for that one. And I would tell you, of course, if there are some questions that we need to take back and revert to the inquirer after the webinar, this also would happen, but we would clearly state it. So let me go now to the question that we received. So there is one question from our colleague Grzegorz, who is actually one of our main counterparts from the European Central Bank, and indeed one of the colleagues with whom we most actively also interact on data quality and data use matters. Definitely highly appreciated, and I hope also you have seen in the report the work that ECB and ESRB colleagues are performing on with the data and as contributors to the data quality work. So the question is there any public information where I could read more about ESMA data platform, technology capabilities, who can access data sets covered, etc. So from that side, Grzegorz, ESMA data platform, it's at this stage, it's purely for us and for the regulatory community. So that's why we have not published much details for, as you can imagine, obvious reasons. However, of course, we're happy to engage with you and share more details there. At least for what it's worth at this stage, the platform, of course, it's open for the regulatory community on the ESMA side, the national competent authorities, and there we have a few data sets. Then the part which is purely towards ESMA, all the data that we have at ESMA that you can imagine are several tens of data sets are being moved to the data platform. In terms of then more questions of technology, etc., there were several articles in newspapers, specialized magazines, etc. We can point out to those later on and also use them in our exchange. Looking to see if there are more questions. Okay, there is a question. Oops, I saw one question. Just a second. Okay. So there is a question from Tim Hartley. The details of the EMIR DQIs in the let me wait. The details for the EMIR DQIs in the appendix are really useful. Could we provide more granularity on each of them? So I think in terms of the granularity we provided at this stage, I would say everything that it's let's put it more legal or formal text. However, we can assess also in the next iterations of this report, try to publish something which is much closer to a pseudocode, so that indeed the users can look at it. We can see also we're going to have rather soon let's say a more dedicated data web page, so we would see also whether we can publish some more content there, so that indeed market participants have it. But that's a very good point, team. So we would consider what else we can publish to further improve let's say the awareness and the transparency of all the actions that we undertake with regards to to improving the quality of data. Then there is a question by someone who has not put his identity. However, the question is, has ESMA performed a survey among trade repositories, bankers, associations, market participants on the overall readiness for EMIR REFIT on the day? So we have not performed survey because, of course, you can imagine we are in direct contact with the TRs and with the competent authorities. What we have received and have been receiving, of course, it's periodic information on the indeed on the level of first coverage during testing. Most of the repositories had their testing opened since beginning of February. So from that side, we have been monitoring quite closely the situation with the testing. Indeed, also we have raised this with the competent authorities who have we were also engaged with the supervised entities. The level of readiness is, I would say, similar to the one that we have had with any go live. We do expect teething problems and definitely some level of adjustments. Let's not forget EMIR. It's EMIR REFIT reporting is much more complex than what we had up to now. It requires many more adjustments by the entities. However, there is a lot on which they have learned. All those which have been exposed to SFTR, I'm sure that they have learned on those actions. Those who have been previously reporting since the scope also has not changed in terms of the coverage of the entities, would have leverage on what they have. So from that perspective, we do expect that, of course, the first days, as with any go live, there are going to be certainly more rejections. There are going to be more questions. We have also issued quite an extensive guidance. If there is a need for further guidance, we also would be looking to provide it. So from that perspective, we understand that everyone has taken all the relevant actions to be ready for the D-Day, and then we will be monitoring the situation next week and see if there is a need for any further action outside. But I would say that I would definitely have liked to have much more testing, given the long period of time that we had all of us to get ready. However, now, as you mentioned on Monday, is the D-Day, and the only thing that we can see is all those who have, as usual, trained well, done their homework. We are sure that they're going to have good reports, and those who haven't, they're going to have to continue preparing for making their homework and then fixing the issues that might arrive. There is a question: would you have the dates of the next SFTR and EMIR DQIs? Which I don't understand. What does it mean, the dates? We run the data quality indicators on as frequent basis as possible. Some of them are run on a monthly basis. Some of them we share them with the authorities on a monthly basis, but they're calculated on each and every day of data. So from that perspective, I think we mentioned it in the report, but just to explain how the data quality indicators work. So we monitor them on ongoing basis. However, the authorities act on those only when the data quality indicators breach certain thresholds. So those thresholds are 5 and 10%, depending on whether they refer to an individual asset class or to the global population of derivatives or SFTs. So from that perspective, indeed, whenever there is a need for us and the authorities to act upon, we will do so. But there are no fixed dates for action. There is a question by Simona: the derivatives transactions are sent in EMI reporting and EMIF reporting. This is correct. Or can we use just one reporting? Well, at this stage, of course, you should continue reporting under two regimes. I think from that there has been quite a lot also mentioned by ESMA in terms of the let's say the reporting regimes, overlapping regimes. We are also working with the Commission. Of course, not all the derivative transactions are subject to both regimes. Of course, there is a slight difference in scope, but indeed there are a lot of similarities, and this is one of the areas where especially my colleagues on the policy side are engaging quite intensely with the European Commission to ensure that as also part of the European supervisory data strategy, indeed the overlaps or the duplications in reporting regimes are minimized, and they only exist when they are duly justified. Okay, there is a question which says certain DQIs for EMIR refit are in absolute numbers, not in ratios. Rejects. What is the relevancy of such DQIs when comparing data quality of market participants with significant differences in total volume of trades to declare? So just to tell you that maybe this is a perception, and on that one I would also invite my colleagues to further check the drafting, but the data quality indicators as we use them and as they calculated to us, they are as ratio. All of them are as either percentage or usually they're percentage. So from that perspective, indeed we use them in a relative basis. Then usually how the data quality framework works is that we use the data quality indicators as a first, as you can imagine, indicator, but then for each of the indicators where we identify data quality issues, then we drill down to the relevant entities that contribute to that issue. And we have also set up certain thresholds in order to ensure a risk-based approach over which the competent authorities need to reach to those entities to and to request them, of course, to update their reporting and to fix and remediate any issue that comes from that. Grzegorz from ECB again, do you plan to run some specific analysis after go live to see what impact introduction of refit rules will have on the data quality? Yes, absolutely, Grzegorz. On our side, I'm sure that also on your side you would be continue analyzing the data. So this is part of the plan, of course. The first, however, and most important goal from our side, as you can imagine, is to make sure that the reports arrive to the TRs, that counterparties and trade repositories are in good shape, able to receive the data, provide back feedback, provide the data to the authorities in due time, etc. So from that perspective, I think we go step by step. Then indeed, general as part of our work, the analysis on all the new data elements on which also you and the colleagues from other colleagues from ECB, of course also colleagues from ESMA have greatly contributed at global level to include those data elements. Indeed, we would be also looking into those and see how well those are being understood, and then of course utilize them for further publications on our side. There is a question, what is the frequency of data sharing for NCAs currently and planned? We share data with competent authorities for those regimes which we already, let's say, have more stronger engagement through the data platform on a monthly basis. However, for the rest, we follow, let's say, frequencies which are in the frameworks, which usually vary between either, as we mentioned, every month. Some other cases it's quarterly. And yeah, these are basically the frequencies in which we share data quality with data quality indicators and information on data quality test with competent authorities. There is a question whether the current and planned number of DQIs for EMIR, MiFIR, SFTR is the same. No, we don't. So we do try to, of course, leverage on the lessons learned, on the let's say insights that the DQIs provide us, but we are not bound by having the same number of tests. Those who under SFTR, for instance, you have much more granular information on the collateral portfolios, which we, as you have seen also, which we wanted to look at and we are assessing. Under MiFIR, we look more through certain other elements linked also to the reference data, but also the timeliness, etc. of the report. So from that perspective, indeed, the three reporting regimes, even though they're transaction level reporting regimes, they're quite different. So also in terms of our data quality monitoring, we do try to make sure that we take this into account, and the data quality indicators, indeed, since we discussed them with the regulatory community, they are indeed there to support the supervisory work, and indeed to improve the quality of the data. So we have as many as are needed to make this happen. There is one question on SFTR DQIs. So for the next iteration of the report, for sure you'd have the details of the SFTR DQIs, and as I mentioned, when we go live with the updated ESMA data webpage, we would also see to what extent we can put all that content which support entities there, so that indeed you can have access to it even earlier on. Yes, so there are two more questions which are linked to the thresholds of the DQIs. Indeed, the thresholds are 5 and 10%. 5% if issue is affecting across asset classes. 10% if it's specific to an asset class. However, these figures should not be considered as something which is also immediate condition to trigger a data quality indicator. When we perform the assessment, of course, we take a decision which data quality indicators should be triggered, also taking into account which are the most impactful, and also on which ones we have recently had any remedial action. To give you an example, if for the data quality indicator on valuations, we have already undertaken some actions in the last couple of months, even though the data quality indicator now can still remain high, we know that there are several remediations which are taking place, so it would take certain time for the issue to be solved. So in that case, we don't blindly go to trigger a new one. However, this is also part of the let's say the work that we perform data quality. When we see some issues which do not necessarily are not necessarily linked, and you have a couple of examples also in the report, are not necessarily linked to the percentages or to high number of records affected. However, they have an important effect on the quality of data, i.e. issues caused, for instance, by either outliers or definitely anomalous or implausible values or number of records being reported. In that case, we don't even need to go to the 5 or 10%. We also have there the ability to engage with the competent authority and request them indeed to discuss with the supervised entity the resolution of those issues. So don't take the thresholds as absolute. They are definitely relative, but also we on our side, we, let's say, take a risk-based approach when and how to trigger different supervisory actions. And this is one of the duties, of course, of the supervisory authorities. I see that we don't have more questions. Christina and colleagues from comms, I think with that one also we are right on time, so maybe we can close the session today. And indeed, thank again everyone who joined us. Wish you all a lovely weekend, of course, and those of you who have any reporting obligations, good luck to you. Good luck to trade repositories and to us for Monday. And definitely, we are going to be very happy to have more webinars with you and to continue informing you and providing more transparency on all the work that we are doing with the data that you provide us, and which we use for multiple purposes. Thank you very much for joining us today, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.